Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at a great replay that I had in the Pensacola, the Tier 7, soon to be Tier 6 American Heavy Cruiser. I'm divisioned up with my buddy from BIA, Puddin', and he's playing in the Z39, the brand new premium Tier 7 German destroyer, and we're playing some domination here on the map New Dawn. So, the Pensacola here in World of Warships, this is a ship that will be getting moved as part of the very soon to be American heavy and light cruiser changes. We did a video way back on this in, I believe, last October or November when the line changes were first announced. It is our most viewed video on YouTube. I think it's got like 22,000 views. So, thank you all you guys for tuning into that one. But anyway, the Pensacola, amongst a whole bunch of other changes, will be moving down to Tier 6, and that is the focus of this video. So, courtesy of my buddy Stuntman9630, I'm sure you guys know who he is. He does the podcasts, he casts for King of the Sea, and he's also very active on Twitch and has his own YouTube channel where he is able to get the insider info, so to speak, for all of the new ships that come out regarding, all of their statistics and stuff like that. He's a really good guy. We do the podcast with him, like I said, and he kind of gave me a little generalization about the changes that are coming to the Pensacola, and honestly, not that much happens, and that's why I'm very concerned that this ship could become quite the seal clubber at Tier 6. The only things to note that change, courtesy of Stuntman, is that the hit points fully upgraded goes down to 32,700. You can see right now this ship has 34,300 at Tier 7, so a slight reduction in the HP that you have, but the guns are identical. The only thing that's different, the traverse is now 4 degrees. AA and the secondaries are identical. Speed and turning are identical, and the detection does get nerfed to 14.1 kilometers stock, 12.09 with a stealth build. My stealth build here on the Tier 7 version is at 10.9, so you're going to have to get a little bit readjusted to some crappier concealment with this thing. Again, 12.1 kilometers compared to 10.9. So those are the changes, the big changes anyway, that will be happening. Anyway, getting to the gameplay, I pick up the first blood on the T-22 with 6 penetrating hits from the high explosive, and I have secure our team's first kill of the game, which is nice. Something else that Stunt wanted me to mention, the surface detection range when firing in smoke goes from 7.32 to 8.4, which is a little bit on the high side for a heavy cruiser, but at the end of the day, 8.4 kilometers is still pretty decent to deal with in that regard. So, not that many changes, a few of them at least, but overall the Pensacola should perform a little bit better, quite honestly, at Tier 6 because, the reload wasn't changed. The gun performance on this ship is, quite honestly, very good. And I know that a lot of people dislike the Pensacola where it stands at Tier 7 for the simple reason of the Cleveland at Tier 6, which is being moved to Tier 8, was such a joy to play and was such an easy ship to play that switching from the heavy to the light cruiser, or excuse me, the light to the heavy cruiser from Tier 6 to 7 was quite an adjustment period for people to get used to. The Pensacola, 8-inch guns instead of 6-inch, so a much slower rate of fire, worse concealment, not necessarily better AA, as a matter of fact, a little bit worse AA. And while you do have, it's a heavy cruiser, the armor that you have on the ship is also a little bit worse for the wear. So, that's why people had such a hard time getting used to this ship, because it's such a paradigm shift in American cruiser gameplay, and it's a good thing that they're finally, deciding to split it up between the light and the heavies, because the Pensacola coming after the Cleveland just felt a little weird, and it's a great thing that they're adding more ships to the game and all that stuff, but, yeah, that's why a lot of people don't like the Pensacola, and Notzer made a video not too long ago where he's like, the Pensacola is a bad ship. It really isn't. It's just not a bad ship. A lot of players that don't understand how to utilize the slower firing guns, the crappier concealment, the worse AA, the worse armor, the Cleveland really is a much better ship than the Pensacola, plain and simple, and that's why it's finally being moved to Tier 8 where it should be. Okay, so with that all out of the way, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the game, and I'm in quite a bit of a predicament here. There's a Miyoko that's off to my right, and there's 2 battleships, a Gneisenau and a Normandy, which are off of my front. So what I need to do here is keep all of my guns trained over on the Miyoko while trying to stay angled as best as I can to those enemy battleships. And you can see right there, I took 3,600 damage, but I did have a couple ricochets, and I've also tossed 2 10K plus salvos into that Miyoko. The Pensacola's armor-piercing shell is fantastic. It performs very well, and you get 10 of these 203mm guns. So you can see there, that Miyoko only survived 3 salvos, that last one doing 9K, and getting a double Citadel and finishing off that Tier 7 Japanese heavy cruiser. And you can see here, I timed it perfectly, so after I shot, I was able to complete my turn and then dodge another full salvo from the Normandy. So right there, I was in a very sticky situation, but I did the best play possible. Point my nose, angle a little bit to the battleships in front of me, swing my guns, swing my ship just enough to be able to get all my guns to shoot at the Miyoko, and then angle back up, constantly using the rudder. And that's one thing about the Pensacola that's honestly low-key really good about it. It has a fantastic rudder shift, and it has a very good turning circle. So even though you don't have the best armor, as long as you know how to wiggle and use the quote-unquote WASD hacks, you're actually going to be able to dodge a lot of salvos and a lot of shells. So, at this point in the game, 47,000 damage and 2 kills. If it ended right now, this, quite honestly, would not be a bad performance in this ship. Just because, for the longest time, it was a little weak, and just so many players weren't able to get over the hump from the Cleveland to this thing that the overall stats for this ship across the board amongst the player base is very poor. So, being able to have monster games in this thing, this is definitely a ship that for those of you out there that care about your stats as much as I do, you can farm a lot of WTR, you can farm a lot of experience and credits and all that good stuff in this thing. So, yeah. Now, you can see, while I've been chit-chatting the last couple minutes, I've continued to kite away from the B-cap, because what I've been trying to do, there was obviously the Gneisenau and the Normandy that were pushing in there. I did not want to put myself in a spot where I was going to get shot at by both of them. So I kited away, and I've been going in and out of stealth for the last couple of minutes as I've moved away. And now that the Gneisenau turned, I'm now going to come back to the B-cap. You can see my buddy Puddin is getting ready to make a push in there. And what I'm going to do is try and support him. And once again, what you're going to see here with the next couple salvos from the Normandy is me using the excellent turning, the excellent rudder that this ship has to be able to dodge shells, and if I don't, angle as best as possible. I get a fire on the Normandy with my first salvo. I see that there's one for the priority target, so I know that it's the Normandy aiming at me at about 11.3 kilometers, and here comes his salvo. So I'm going to angle as best as I can, not going full on, because if you go full on, he does have enough penetration to be able to go through the nose of this ship, but putting it in an angle right like that, you saw I only took one salvo, or one shell, excuse me, for a little over 1,000 damage, and the rest that did hit me bounced, because it does have just enough belt armor to be able to ricochet shells that come in at about a 10 to 20 degree angle. Now you can see, I open up my broadside again to get all of my guns shooting. There's no reason for me to go nose in and only be able to use half of my firepower, considering the Pensacola also has excellent gun angles. Once again, one shell hits me. The very vast majority of them miss or bounce off my hull, and I'm able to get quite a few more good salvos at that Normandy as he finally goes out of range, or not out of range, he goes behind the island and I can't shoot at him. So right there, just utilizing the excellent turning on this ship to be able to, you know, dodge salvos and deal damage in return. I wait for this enemy Z-39 to slow down, and I hit him with a very nice meaty salvo, well over 4,000 damage, 2 incapacitations, 2 fires, 6 penetrating hits. The Pensacola, if it gets close enough to enemy DDs, it feels like a mini Zao in that regard. The amount of high explosive alpha damage strikes that you can land on those little lullaboats is pretty impressive, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. Also, hitting the New York and any of those American battleships in the superstructure, you're going to get a lot of penetrations and a lot of damage dealt. And you can see right here as he's down to about 1,000 hit points, the next salvo falls in, and I take care of that Tier 5 American battleship, picking up my 3rd kill of the game, and I'm up to 94,000 points of damage. So right now, this is definitely a super unicum result. This is going to easily get me MVP of the game if I were to die right now, but there's still a little bit more that needs to be done. So what have you seen so far throughout the replay? A lot of maneuvering, a lot of ammunition switching, shooting high explosive and armor piercing, depending on the target, depending on the range, depending upon the angle. Even though you're in a heavy cruiser and you have quite a bit longer of a reload compared to something that might have 152mm guns or whatnot, it's still important to make sure that you utilize the right ammunition for the job. High explosive on destroyers, armor piercing against cruisers, even if they're slightly angled, armor piercing against battleships at point blank range, high explosive at long range. You know, you got to be thinking about all these things, and this transcends the Pensacola. It doesn't really matter what cruiser we're talking about. But still, it's very important to be able to utilize your ammunition correctly. And, you know, I'm going to say it again. These guns are just so darn good. You get 10 of them, and they're so darn accurate. This ship's gunnery is low-key one of the best cruisers in the mid-tiers, tier for tier in the game, in my opinion. It's just such a nice, comfortable gun platform. The range is perfectly adequate at 15.7 kilometers. Obviously, the reload's a little bit on the slow side, but as long as you put yourself in those positions to where you can stealth fire or utilize islands, you're going to be able to get some very meaty salvos in. And you're actually going to see that coming up here against the enemy ranger as he's moving into my gun range. It's 560, make that 579 to 232. Our team is easily going to win this game. There's only the KGV and the enemy ranger left over, so at this point it is pure damage farm, and we're going to see what we're going to be able to do here. I got the armor-piercing shot loaded. I am detected, but quite honestly, I'm not worried about the KGV right now, as he has a lot of stuff to deal with over there on the eastern side of the map to his own. Get a full broadside of AP out here at the ranger. Shells are going down range. Nice little pun right there. Gonna get a couple of nice hits. There we go. One Citadel, 7.4 K damage done. But right here with this salvo, this is the kind of ceiling that you can honestly expect on broadside ships with the Pensacola's AP. 20,000 damage with quad Citadel. I pick up the high caliber and the Confederate off of that salvo. I absolutely nuked the Ranger. And then the next salvo, number 3, going down range, takes care of that Tier 7 American aircraft carrier. And I immediately switch back to the high explosive to shoot at the KGV at long range. And I'm dead serious. You guys saw it on the Nachi or the Miyoko. 3 salvos of at least 9,000 damage with the AP. 20k salvo on the Ranger after a 7,400 salvo. Those, seriously, are the kinds of salvos that you should expect, assuming that you aim properly. With this ship. And that's why this thing going down to Tier 6, quite frankly, frightens me. I really think that it could become OP in the right hands, especially in somebody like myself. I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing and get in Tier 6 maximum matchmaking, where you have a whole bunch of emeralds and Omahas and Albas and all that to terrorize. That just sounds like a hootin' good time. I don't know about you guys, but I've always had a low-key appreciation for this ship because, honestly, a lot of the ships in the game that the community quote-unquote says are bad or that they're not good, I've actually performed really well in. The Izumo, one of my best tier-for-tier battleships in the game, at least from a damage perspective. The Pensacola, one of my best cruisers in the game from an experience standpoint. I love playing ships that aren't overpowered, that aren't, you know, top tier, and still seeing what kind of results that you can have in them. And that's why this ship is just, gosh, it's so much fun to play. And I know that that's probably running against everything that the common folk out there, you guys, have heard about this ship. I'm sure that plenty of you watching this video do not have much of a high opinion of this thing, but man, oh man. I mean, look at that. 135,000 damage, 10 citadels, 4 ships sunk. This is a fantastic game for this ship. And I still got 11,000 hit points. I've honestly done about as good as I can in this ship. It's difficult to have over 100,000 damage games in this thing just because of the long reload and the fact that it does take damage really easily. But yeah, this thing at Tier 6 is going to be one hell of a ship to play. And I know I already said it, but I just cannot wait for this thing to get there. Speaking of the American Cruiser split, as the game is about to end, I can't wait to play the Seattle. I can't wait to play the Buffalo. The Buffalo looks like a... Oh, man, that looks like an even more glorious time. You get Hindenburg levels of firepower with 12 203mm guns at Tier 9 with a pretty decent reload. I think it's a little bit shorter than the Zhao. I can't wait for that as well. And, of course, the Worcester at Tier 10. I think, you know, it's the Minotaur 2.0 with HE. So, oh, man, there's so many American cruisers coming out that I cannot wait to get my hands on. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, for the game, one last salvo doing a little over 3,000 damage to put my total at 143, and then my buddy Puddin's going to shoot AP at the KGV and finish off the game in style. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 384,000 credits received, 9,300 total experience earned. This was my first win of the day. I picked up Confederate, First Blood, and High Caliber, dealing 143,000 points of damage off of 144 shell hits. I shot down 3 planes, sank 4 ships, had 9 fires set, and got 10 juicy citadels. Taking a look at the team score, 2,403 base experience. That is a very solid performance in this ship, one of my best, as a matter of fact. My buddy Puddin finishing in second place with 2 ships destroyed and 4 planes shot down for 1572 base XP. So this APOC div, once again, proving their weight is more than gold. Or worth their weight in gold. Wow, I totally jacked that up, but whatever. Main battery, 119,000 damage, 23k with the fire set, 874,000 potential, which is, that's not bad for a Pensacola, but you kind of got to get over 1 million before anybody starts to raise their eyebrows. And yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this replay. This is the last one that we're going to feature of the Pensacola before she makes her move to Tier 6. Amongst all of the other American light and heavy cruisers that are being shifted around or added to the game, and I cannot wait for that stuff to happen. Also, something else to note for those of you that are still watching the video, I am going to be gone for the entirety of the month of June. I'm going on a European vacation as a quote-unquote celebration of my 5 years of active duty military service. I'm going with one of my best buddies from childhood, Kyle, and we're going to go visit Germany, the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia, I should say, Hungary, Italy, Switzerland, France, Belgium, and the UK. It is going to be 1 month of spending money on fine wine and going around to look at all of the awesome stuff. And then at the end of my trip, I'm going to get to fly in a Spitfire that has been restored at the Boltleby Flight Academy. So I have just a whirlwind of an adventure coming up in Europe. And with that being the case, I'm going to get some videos uploaded for you guys so that while I'm gone, whenever they feel like being lazy and don't want to put up a video for the day, they can just use one of mine and go from there. But yeah, I can't wait for that trip, and it's going to be such a blast. With that being said, this is your boy, TheSneakySnake for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Please consider giving the video a like, commenting on it, possibly subscribing to the channel, or sharing it with your buddies. Whatever you want to do, please do so. And thank you for your support. And with that being said, have a great day.